This is one of the questions from our research team. So how do you ensure consistency in supplier, right? I mean, you're getting from different sources, and how do they pass your vetting process? You know, is there certain things that you go through? So how do you ensure that every product that's coming out from that supplier is trustworthy? I mean, so what stage of authenticity do you do? Right?
Mm-hmm. So right now it's checking the supplier themselves, checking the documents, checking the certificate of authenticity that we always request them to provide, and also sometimes testing the cans themselves, checking if it's the real product, kind of manually, randomly. We did that as well, actually. But randomly picking some of the cans and testing them. So that's something that's done. Now, at this point, it's fine, but at the big scale, that's not going to be enough. At the big scale, it will need to move closer to the manufacturer, where it's direct relationship with the manufacturer themselves. And if there's a relationship with the manufacturer, the manufacturer doesn't need to fake their own products. It actually helps them. So
that makes sense. So at which stage of the manufacturing process is the sticker stick on?
So right now, it's we place the sticker after the manufacturing process. Right. So after we buy the product,
leaves the warehouse.
It's already out of the warehouse. It's already not from the manufacturer. But right now, it's a fairly manual process. Right now, the volumes are not huge, right? So right now, the manual process is fine. So each time they place the label, they also take several pictures. And then when the mothers are buying the products, they don't just see the traceability and all the locations where it's been and all that, but they also see the pictures that were taken in the Netherlands, where our warehouse is in the Netherlands when the label was placed. And then they compare the pictures and they say, okay, it's exactly it's a bit like the stamp on the documents.
Right.
You know, you compare.
It's funny that you mentioned the pictures, because one of our competitors, I don't know, it's essentially Daigo, a Chinese Daigo. You might want to do an explanation later on. I mean, they're charging an extra 10 RMB if you want your the photo of your product taking at the store in Germany or something like that.
Yeah, we do it for free.
Okay.
So that's how it's happening right now. But like I said, later on it will need to move at the manufacturer, the standard sticking machines that will be used to essentially reduce the cost. It's just right now the volumes are not huge, and there's no point for us to focus on kind of optimizing a small volume. Once it gets bigger, that's when it will optimize.
Okay, great. So do you have any logistics partner that are planning to manage the logistics within your company? Are you working with anyone? As a logistics?
In terms of logistics, it's the standard logistics companies that we're working with, and in terms of both the inland logistics within Europe, then it's the either shipping by plane or by ship to our warehouse in China, and then this logistics partner, the standard Kuwaiti.
But I think it's a good question, because essentially we don't care who ships the product, and we don't care who takes it anywhere in China, because with the label, unless they sort of make a hole in the can and dump it down, and then again essentially deface the product, they cannot open it, right? So if they open it, it becomes unscannable, and you cannot you can't do anything with it.
It's actually a very important point that Yaroslav is bringing. So this makes a very big difference versus some of the big competitors that we have. I'm not sure we can call them competitors because they're huge and now. So it's someone like Jingdong, for example. For them, so they have their system called Jingdong Z, where it's they essentially rely on their own logistics so that they can ensure the authenticity of the products. Right? There's no one else in the logistics, so no one else can put stuff in.
Do you have pictures
of what?
Of the Jingdong?
But essentially, we don't need that, right? Because the label is there. We don't care through which logistics it goes, as long as it doesn't damage the product, right? But then logistics, they care about that as well. People cannot put in their fakes because the label is there, and that's first, it simplifies the logistics a lot for us. We don't need to build our own logistics, and second, it actually gives a lot more access. Right, so for a company like Jingdong, they still need to invest a lot in building their own logistics network, and that's fine. It works for them. For us, we don't need that, and a lot of the local entrepreneurs or local shops, distributors, they can use our product, and we can still feel safe that it's authentic because it's protected at the individual item level rather than through the protection of the channel.
Right. Yeah. So how do you ensure the quality of the product? I mean, shelf life, expiry date, with regards to that. So how do you ensure that it's like
it's quite simple. We buy high quality products that are that are good quality brands that are very well known. That big companies, they go through very stringent quality standards,
right.
And then yeah, that's probably the first thing in terms of the expiry dates and all that. Well, we had some of the products that got expired. Well, we moved them off the shelf and took the losses on that.
Yeah. It's another thing that what label allows us to do, because with this incentive to scan, we can actually have this constant channel of communication with the consumer. Right? So essentially, there are stories in China of companies doing massive recalls, and it costs them a lot of money to do the recalls. With us, we know where a particular batch is being sold, and we can deactivate it. So essentially, with intent to scan, we can tell the consumer, don't buy it.
I'll add a more particular example. So right now, imagine that if you're a big company selling in Shanghai, in a big city, then the product goes close to the expiry date. You can send your colleagues merchandise or whoever you're working with and take it off the shelf. That's fine. But now imagine you're in a very small city somewhere in China where you don't have direct access. Or you sold it to distributor sold it to another distributor and another distributor. You don't know where it is, right? So okay, it's expiring, but you don't know. It may still be sold to a consumer and could potentially be dangerous.
Right.
So we're actually solving that problem, because as long as the consumer is actually scanning it, we can very quickly notify them, like, look, this is expired, don't consume it. Right. If you bought it and it still says that, sometimes people can tamper with expiry date.
Yes.
Right. If the expiry date has been tampered with, we have the direct communication back from the consumer to us, and we can deal with it, both to the consumer and, if needed, through the business channels or even police.
Right. Okay. So, which means to say, let's say I would scan the bar or the code itself, it will let me know that when it's going to be expired, where has it been through, and stuff like that.
It is not, it's a data that's stored on the chip, right? So it's a passive chip again. So it's something to bring it for the later discussion, Walton coin.
Yeah.
But this is information that for each particular product which is stored on the chip. So it's a little unique kind of product passport, if you want.
Right. Okay.